Hi, I'm Jihad, and I'm 17. I'm still in school, but I'm also the founder and CEO of my own company. Like most of you, I took a couple selfies this summer. Now this was the first one, with that Star Wars dude. And this was the second one. And if you don't know that dude, well, that dude is Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple. And I met him at Apple's Worldwide Developers Conference in San Francisco. Now, only 5,000 engineers and developers can attend this conference out of millions of applicants, and I was one of them. And so, it's not gonna work that way. And so, there I met many cool people, developers, CEOs, designers, engineers. And I also met students, like me, from all over the world. And we talked about unusual things, like how to raise your first $1 million, or how to sell your company to eBay or Google. We were different ages. We spoke different languages. And we came from different countries. But yet, we had one thing in common besides building stuff: school. Not that we go to school, but that we don't enjoy it. And that we find it irrelevant and sometimes even destructive to what we do. What I mean is we spend an average of 7 to 9 hours a day building apps, coding and designing and launching companies, and still we have to spend another 8 hours at a place that does not relate to our interests and that does not make us better at what we're good at. And so, as a student who's been in school for almost 14 years, I'd like to share with you the 3 biggest problems I have with school. Now, the first problem is the way time is spent. Just think about all the time you spend memorizing things that you forget right after the exam. Think about all the waiting, waiting for the bus, waiting for the class to start, waiting for corrections, waiting for the bell to ring, waiting for lunch, waiting for recess, waiting to be inspired, waiting to get back home, waiting for school to end. It's almost like school is more about waiting than learning. And at the end of the typical day, we don't really have much to show for these 8 hours. It's as if it didn't happen. Now seriously, do you know how much more a kid can do in 8 hours? Without any exaggeration, a 15-year-old kid can build a business and a company in as little as 8 hours. And I know it because I did it when I was 15 at a weekend competition. And here's how it happened. So first of all, I had to figure out a problem. And it took me 30 minutes to discover that my problem back then was to find local freelancers to help me with my projects. It took me another 30 minutes to figure out the solution. There was a mobile app that shows you local freelancers, say designers or developers, on a map, and so that you can chat with them and, build the product. I decided to build an app and a website. I had to get the designs, and that's what I did. I Googled some free designs, and I downloaded them for my website and my app design so that I don't really have to reinvent the wheel and design the things all over again. It took me around 30 minutes. I had to design the logo. I Googled it, how to design a logo, YouTube video, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. I built my first logo on Photoshop. And then I had to prototype it. I didn't actually have to build the product, I simply had to prototype it. I used online softwares to drag and drop images and buttons just so that I can illustrate how the product works, the user journey. No coding, simply illustrating. It took me around 4 to 5 hours to do that. Then I prepared a presentation, a simple 5 pages presentation about how the product works, how can we make money, target market, easy stuff. And then I registered a company, a limited liability company in the UK, online, in 30 minutes, when I was 15. And you actually have to be 16 to do that, but I lied for good purpose. And so if you do the math, I still had 30 minutes to tweet about it. And I still remember that tweet. It was like, I built a company in 8 hours. What did you do this weekend? It's like, I was just... I was just a kid bragging about this company. So we won the first prize in the competition back then. And then when I was 16, I launched a new company. That is my current company, Saily. And I did it again. And now this company is growing. And this company is scaling. And now that's what I call a return on investment of my time. So What I'm trying to say is that we should spend less time learning about how things work and spend more time actually making things work. You know, just imagine what we could build if we could rethink how time is spent in school. So, time was the first problem. The second problem I have with school is the way we're assessed, what counts, and what happens when we fail. So last year, my physics teacher was explaining the projectile concept. And he was listing down equations and talking like always. And we had a test. And I failed the test, simply because I forgot to write down the equations on my hand, which I don't usually forget to do. So when I got back home, I was really pissed off. And I decided to build a game. And I guess you're familiar with Angry Birds, the game where you basically have to hit the pig with a bird. Well, that's exactly the projectile concept in physics. So I built him an Angry Birds-like game where my head was the bird, and where he was the target who's going to die. And I did that to prove to him that I actually understood the concept while merging it with what I do best. I had to put time and effort to learn and build my game. I had to design animation, I had to research frameworks, and I even took an online course in game design on Treehouse, and much, much more. See, the point is, I was studying, and I was learning. But the only difference is that I was studying something I wanted to learn for my own purposes, instead of something I was forced to study. So my teacher played the game, he killed himself a couple of times. Everybody in the school played the game and killed the teacher a couple of times, and we all lived happily ever after. Right? Yeah, it's wrong. We didn't. Let's look at the facts. Even though I showed a working prototype of the concept through doing what I love to do, I still have failed the exam. Because what I love to do doesn't count in school. In fact, school teaches us not to fail. We lose points if we fail. But in my work life, if I don't fail, I don't improve. When we started Saily, we spent over 3 months building a product that turned out to be the most buggy code ever made. We spent time, effort, and money on it, and it was terrible. Even my mom didn't like it. And so in school, I would have taken an F- and failed, and that's it, all over. I can't do anything about it. But in real life, we took the code, we built it all over again with improvements and changes based on the feedback we got. And then we launched the app for the public, and people loved it. And today we have thousands of users on the platform. And the fact that I have failed at some point is really paying off. So for me, failure should not be something to avoid. In fact, we should be allowed to fail more often in school. We should learn to see failure as an advantage instead of simply running away from it. Failure was the second problem I have with school. The third problem I have with school is why can we only learn with kids our own age? Like, what's the strategy? So when I went to the Apple conference, I thought I would be the youngest guy there. I'm 17, I build apps, they think I'm cute. And I walked in, and I was surprised to see 12-year-old kids. I saw 12-year-old programmers. Yes, they deserve a clap. And I felt old. When I saw those creatures, I was like, why? But come to think of it, I prefer to learn with that 12-year-old kid because we have common goals and we have common interests and we can build things together and we can learn together. In fact, thousands of us are being born every day. And school, as it is today, is not ready for us and is not serving us. Even universities are not ready for us. So just imagine school. What if school was more about learning and less about succeeding in a system? What if school gave me the right to stand out with at least one thing I do better than the others? What if school helped me get better at what I love to do? And now, imagine with me. Imagine a school where that 12-year-old kid and I can learn together in the same classroom. Imagine a school where we can learn about how things work by actually making things work. And this is not only for programming or design. This goes for every other profession out there. Now, imagine a school where kids don't get punished for failing, a school that has customized assessment criteria that fit multiple styles of learning. And now this one requires most imagination. Imagine if parents demanded such schools for their kids. Now, I'm speaking right in front of you now, and right after tomorrow, I have a math test. I'll have to forget about everything I just said and focus on my math test, because I have no choice. Should it be that way? Should it really, really be that way? Well, I think school could be much, much more if what I love counts in it. Thank you.